Doctor Who. Tales from Time. Paradise. Written and narrated by Chris Jones. The surface glistened bright in the light of the twin suns. One would almost be mistaken for thinking the surface was ablaze with fire, and if you would stand on the surface for too long, sunburn would be the least of your problems. In the centre of the dazzling world stood a monolithic tower, and from the tower branched off tunnels which led to many other futuristic constructs. The familiar wheezing sound of the TARDIS echoed throughout the structure. The blue box began to warp into the reception of this magnificent complex. The Doctor emerges dressed in the usual black skinny jeans, long navy coat, shirt, tie and waistcoat. He is about to approach the front desk when he realises that Daisy has not followed him out. Frustration filled the Doctor's face as he steps back towards his trusty ship and bellows, "Come on, Daisy, we've only got weekend passes." A loud crash is heard from within the TARDIS, and suddenly Daisy stumbles out. The Doctor, looking confused, helps Daisy back on her feet. Daisy smiles and in a calming tone remarks, "Sorry, I got lost trying to find the wardrobe." Daisy is dressed in a cute summer dress. It's bright red, in fact the same bright red of the suns that engulf the planet. The Doctor appears unimpressed, as he wonders in a concerned manner. What was the loud crash? Daisy has suddenly gone sheepish, as she doesn't want to reveal the answer. "I may have accidentally knocked over a Cyberman head." The Doctor's expression is one of disappointment, that soon dissolves into a smile. "Never mind, I'm pretty sure the Cyberman won't be needing it." Daisy sighs with relief. "I thought you'd be more mad." The Doctor smiles at his companion before remarking that accidents happen, and what's the point in being mad when they're supposed to be on holiday? The pair make their way to the front desk. The Doctor takes out 2 holographic tickets and hands them to the receptionist. Daisy notices that all the staff appear to be robots, all various types from humanoids to ones that look like vacuum cleaners that you'd get on Earth. "Why are all the staff robots?" she asks the Doctor. The Doctor takes 2 keys from the receptionist and hands one to Daisy before answering her. Paradise is the leading luxury resort planet, owned by several different wealthy races. Robots are neutral and can't have a controlling interest, so therefore every stakeholder would have to meet to agree on any changes. It's a genius system when you think about it. The Doctor revels in this information gleefully as the pair walk through the reception area and head to their rooms. As the Doctor and Daisy approach a rectangle-shaped silver platform which is hovering a couple of inches off the ground, a sudden sound of hysterics makes its way to the reception. They step onto the platform and look back, noticing a now distraught-looking woman attempting to plead with the lifeless robotic receptionist. The robot assistant that is stood on top of the platform pushes a button and the platform begins to vibrate. The Doctor quickly leaps off, but before Daisy can follow, the platform is launched suddenly through a tunnel, leaving Daisy unable to call out "Doctor." The Doctor makes a swish 180-degree turn to notice that Daisy didn't jump off in time, but he knows that his faithful friend is smart. She'll find her way back to him. The Doctor turns his attention back to the woman. "It's been 5 days. Where is my husband?" screams the woman, but receives nothing in the way of a reply. "May I be of any help?" the Doctor says in a comforting tone, offering the woman some sort of relief of finally being able to talk to a real person. The woman turns to look at him, noticing how young he appears, almost as if she envies his youthful exuberance. She must be in her mid to late 60s, grey hairs engulf her head, and signs of wrinkles on her face and bags under her eyes suggest that she is completely devastated by whatever has occurred. "Oh, how it's nice to talk to a real person, but I'm not sure what you'll be able to do," the woman replies in a soft, sad voice. The Doctor can tell she is clearly exhausted. You'd be surprised by how much I might be able to help. For a moment, the woman's eyes glistened with hope at the Doctor's reassurance. "What's your name?" the Doctor asks confidently and with a sense of assertiveness. "Mary." The Doctor smiles. "Nice to meet you, Mary. I'm the Doctor. Now why don't you tell me what's happened?" Mary composes herself before beginning to explain the events that have caused her so much heartache and despair. 5 days ago, my husband Paul went missing. He got up from the Ultra Sun Lounger to get us drinks, and he never came back. I have searched every inch of this resort and he is nowhere to be seen. It's very unlike him, and of course this place is run by these robots, so I have no way of finding him." The doctor is surprised by Mary's story, and for a moment is unsure if he will be able to help find Paul. But he is determined to help Mary however he can, and with a commanding tone recites, "Mary, I am going to find out what happened to Paul, and I promise I will do whatever I can to bring him back to you." Mary is overjoyed by what she has been told, and expresses her most sincere gratitude before the two head towards the rectangular hover pads. Daisy is feeling nauseated after arriving at her room. The hover pad travel had taken her by complete surprise. She appears to be staggering as she attempts to regain some sense of normality. "Typical. The doctor sees something and manages to leave me behind," Daisy retorts in an almost begrudging manner. She leans against the wall and suddenly a door next to her shifts open, frightening Daisy as she had not noticed the door. After composing herself, Daisy walks through the door and is surprised to see the most luxurious premium hotel room she has ever seen. The walls were a shimmering silver with a sparkle that radiated the room. The bed was king size. It was a neutral white to match the almost clinical color palette of the room. The ceiling was high and the walls stretched out. The room gave a larger than life feel to it, like a dreamland. It was real, but somehow felt like a fantasy. Daisy took a moment to lie down on the bed. The pillows were like fluffy clouds, and the mattress molded to the shape of her, to an exact optimal comfort. This was paradise. She closed her eyes and could not hear or see anything. That was until, of course, the doctor barged in. "Daisy!" he howled, until she finally awoke to see a disapproving doctor and a sorrowful, weary woman. "You're awake. Good," the doctor remarks sarcastically. Daisy, seeming a little disoriented, pushes herself up into a more seated position. What happened?" she vocalized in a slow and careful way. The doctor is pacing around the room, putting his ear against the walls and scanning various objects with his sonic screwdriver. "Daisy, this is Mary. 5 days ago, her husband Paul vanished," the doctor declares as he draws his attention to Daisy. "And we're going to help her," Daisy replies. The doctor smiles before bellowing, "Exactly." The manner of his tone suggests to Mary that the pair are used to these kinds of strange occurrences. With the help of Mary, the doctor catches Daisy up to speed. It is clear that the doctor has become suspicious of Paradise. His eyes narrowed and his voice has become more stern and serious in the delivery of his words. The trio are now placed in a triangle-like formation in the room. This wasn't deliberate, but rather how they chose to arrange themselves as they begin to work out what happened to Paul. In the corner of the room, a small glisten can be seen from time to time. It would appear that they are being watched. A room containing over 200 screens covering every inch of the resort is present, in a medium-sized dark room. The only problem is that this room does not exist on any map of the resort. It's a mystery room. A mysterious figure begins to scan through pre-recorded footage, paying close attention to the doctor, watching his every move, before picking up some sort of alien communication device. "We have a problem," remarked the mysterious figure. The doctor is beginning to grow impatient as they continue to go over Mary's story. "There has to be something more, something we've missed," he comments in frustration. A robot servant appears at the door. "Would you like any refreshments?" the robot states in a monotone voice. The doctor looks at the robot, and as he is about to reply, a wave of inspiration hits him. "I have an idea," he announces gleefully, before using his sonic screwdriver to fry the robot, leaving both Daisy and Mary shocked. "You'll get us thrown in prison," Mary claims in a state of panic. The doctor reassures her that he knows what he is doing, before walking out into the hallway. An army of humanoid figures dressed in black combat gear swarm the area, armed with M21K advanced laser assault rifles. The troops are all aiming their weapons at the doctor, Daisy and Mary. However, no immediate action is being taken as the troops are awaiting orders. A tall man wearing similar combat gear walks through the troops with a commanding presence. Under Section 17B of the Anti-Terrorism Act of Veltox-Alpha 9, and in accordance with the Shadow Proclamation, I am placing the 3 of you under arrest for the breach of peace. Take them away. The man, now revealing himself to be the commanding officer, spoke in a clear, precise manner. His troops began handcuffing the Doctor, Daisy and Mary before escorting them off the premises and to a ship above. The trio are processed and taken to one cell which they now have to share. The interior was grotty, as if no one cared for it or could be bothered to clean it in between prisoner transfers. The door closes and it feels as though they are destined to spend the rest of their lives in that one cell. Mary is sobbing in one corner of the cell, whilst Daisy sits next to the Doctor. "What's the plan?" Daisy asks. The Doctor looks at her, saying nothing, as she looks back, realizing he won't speak for whatever reason. She lays her head on his shoulder while he looks forward. His face appears normal, but his eyes say everything. They will not be staying in that cell, and the Doctor does have a plan. He lifts up his shoulder, nudging Daisy's soft head. She yelps and looks at the Doctor. "My sonic is in my inside coat pocket. Can you reach it?" he pleads. Daisy attempts to reach the sonic with her cuffed together hands, almost seeming inappropriate as she climbs onto him to get a better reach. Mary looks confused by the pair, losing faith in the Doctor's promise to her. Daisy is successful and gets the sonic into the Doctor's hands. The Doctor quickly uncuffs himself before moving on to Daisy, and finally Mary, who still appears to have lost faith. She looks at the Doctor and with a commanding tone demands, "I want to know what the point of all this was." The Doctor looks back at Mary and calmly recites everything he knows. "We were being watched." In the room there was a micro camera. I noticed them all around the resort. The way in which he spoke was almost like it was poetry to him. The words flow from line to line. I had to make it look like we didn't know what was going on, but I knew, and clearly someone wants me here, otherwise they would take my sonic screwdriver, he remarks with a hint of arrogance, before unlocking the cell and leading the way. The three of them sneak around the ship, being careful not to make any noise as it is still unclear as to who or what wanted them there. The Doctor stops them at a corner. "There's 2 guards down the next corridor," observes the Doctor. He suggests that they turn back and try an alternative route. As they turn around, they are greeted by 3 more guards, who have discovered them. The Doctor raises his hands and smiles as he gleefully declares, "Take us to your leader." Mary and Daisy also raise their hands. The guards escort the 3 of them through various corridors before finally reaching a room full of screens recording everything that happens in the resort. "You finally arrived," announced a deep husky voice. "Well, I like to make a fashionably late entrance," the Doctor claims in a cocky manner. A big, broad, suited man appears from out of the shadowy area and greets the trio. He walks towards them. The Doctor can tell that he is not really the man in charge. The suit is cheap and tacky, with several of the seams coming loose, and his rough, scraggly beard would suggest that he does not have the time or the money to clean up his appearance. "You 3 have caused me a lot of trouble," the man states in a disgruntled tone. The Doctor looks at him, examining his appearance. "Right, let's cut to the chase. I know you're not pulling the strings. Who's in charge?" the Doctor asks confidently and with a sense of power. The man gestures to the guards to leave him alone with the 3 of them. "You have no idea what you are dealing with," the man tells them in a threatening manner. The Doctor confronts the man, with neither of them backing down. "Oh, trust me, you don't want to mess with me. Now who is in charge?" the Doctor commands. The man is disgruntled as he makes his way to the control panel, and before he presses a button, he gives one last warning. "Don't say I didn't warn you." The man pushes the button. A large blue beam of energy bursts around the Doctor, Daisy and Mary. The beam becomes more and more intense before disappearing, taking the 3 of them with it. On a planet approximately 3,000 miles from Paradise resides a citadel, a massive beaming structure made of solid gold. It's clearly a design that alludes to the wealth of the inhabitants, and so it should, as the inhabitants are the wealthy owners of Paradise. They truly live a life that is worthy of the name. They revel in pleasantries and engage in social gatherings, the rich enjoying the company of the rich, but they all know that they prefer the company of their ever-growing wealth. They are the kings and queens of their own world. If you were to journey below the citadel and below the planet's surface, you would see a totally different world. A laboratory takes up almost all the space below the surface. One lone scientist is forced to keep people underground in chambers designed to drain their life force and transform it into energy for the rich and mighty above. It's a horror show. Thousands of lives are sacrificed to provide clean and what the rich call expendable energy. The teleport beam materializes along one of the many caves of living subjects. The Doctor, Daisy and Mary all arrive and are immediately subjected to the horrors. Mary begins to break down as she realizes what or who may be inside the chambers. Daisy sheds a tear as she never thought she'd have to witness something so evil. The doctor's face drops from its usual arrogance as he approaches a chamber. Each chamber has a glass window, meaning that every living being can see out and anyone can see in. This is so the scientist can check on the progress of each subject. The doctor raises his hand and places it on the glass. They take life and reduce it to this. They don't even have time to reflect before the scientist walks into the cave. Noticing that they are there, he tries to escape, but the door suddenly locks before he can make his getaway. The scientist turns to see that the doctor has locked them in with his sonic screwdriver. I want to know right now what these chambers are used for. And before you lie to me, know this. I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Cerberus. I am the oncoming storm, the bringer of darkness, and I will put a stop to this. The Doctor bellows in a rage-filled voice. The scientist appears sheepish. He's only a small, skinny man. He has broken glasses that are held together with tape. He seems skittish, as though he has never had contact with others before. I didn't want any part of this, the scientist sobs. Mary moves closer and interrupts. Where's my husband? Where's Paul? She states in a calm and collected manner, before noticing a chamber in front of her. I'm sorry, weeps the scientist. The doctor suddenly realizes what Mary is about to examine. Mary, don't, he commands in a concerned voice. Mary looks through the window of a rusty, filthy green chamber. She looks in and sees a man. Has to be late 50s, early 60s. But that doesn't matter, for whatever has happened to him makes him seem older. The man looks back at her. He's frail, and looks as though he may not have long left to live. His lips begin to move, mouthing one word. Mary. And that's when Mary realizes the man she is looking at is Paul. He's almost unrecognizable. And as he slowly slips away to his death, Mary falls to her knees in complete devastation. The doctor rushes to her, giving her a hug and repeating a comforting apology. The scientist is also left in a distraught way. After all, this is not the life he chose. The doctor is now stood in silence, reflecting upon what has just occurred. Daisy can tell that this is not unusual for him. His eyes often tell stories of complete horror and heartbreak. You would think that the doctor has become desensitized by all this chaos and madness. However, the truth is that the Time Lord is fueled by acts of inhumane tragedy. It's what keeps him moving forward. After a moment, the doctor returns to his usual energetic self, offering his plan for the future of this operation. I'm shutting it down, he commands. He moves swiftly through the cave and to the door, where he strides with a sense of urgency towards the main control room of this devastating laboratory. Daisy tries to keep up with him, whilst Mary and the scientist drag their feet, struggling to keep going. The doctor storms into the control room with a sense of anger, as though he has always had it but has never been able to unleash it. The fear in Daisy's eyes suggests that he might do something drastic. The doctor turns to face the scientist. Tell me, is anyone alive down here? He says in a macabre tone. Scared to reply, the scientist's lips tremble, his knees begin to wobble, and his arms shaking, before he finally lets out an almost whisper. No. The room goes quiet for a split second, and then suddenly, and with assurance, the doctor begins to work on the controls, pressing buttons and flicking switches. A display illuminates the words self-destruct sequence initiated. Doctor, what are you doing? Daisy questions in a terrified voice. The doctor ignores his surroundings and continues working before finally a countdown sequence begins, counting down from 60 seconds. Everyone in the room believes that this is the end. The doctor turns around holding 3 wrist devices in his hand. He straps a device to Daisy, Mary, and the scientist's wrist. I'm sorry, the doctor declares sincerely, before flicking a switch causing the 3 of them to teleport away from the scene of the horror. Daisy, Mary, and the scientist appear in the grounds of paradise. The scientist is overwhelmed by the doctor's choice to spare his life, whilst Mary can see how much the mysterious man means to Daisy. They give each other a look, one that speaks much louder than words could. Mary doesn't want to live in a world without her husband, and Daisy doesn't want to live in a world without the doctor. And then, without a second thought, Mary teleports away. With only 20 seconds left to live, the doctor begins to reflect, as he knows this will be it. There is no coming back from this, no regeneration this time. But that's okay. He accepts death and welcomes it. He has always feared that living too long could result in more pain and loss. He closes his eyes, and the countdown reaches its end. Bang! The laboratory begins to explode and crumbles in on itself. The corpses of once vibrant lives are evaporated. It was the least that could have been done. No one wants to see their loved ones in that state. Above, the citadel descends into chaos as the height of the elites lock themselves away in a palace, one that is filled with gold, riches and treasures, everything they believe is essential to their future. The Doctor opens his eyes to be greeted by Daisy in the reception of paradise. He stands up and hugs Daisy. He looks around and comes to the grim conclusion that Mary had switched places with him. She gave her life for his, a far too common occurrence for the Doctor. The scientist thanks the Doctor profusely before taking leave and commandeering a small shuttle-like craft. As the Doctor reflects on the events, he makes a sudden and reckless move to leave Daisy and take the TARDIS back to the place he wished he could forget. "Doctor!" Daisy shouts, as she wonders what plagued his mind so much that he couldn't just leave. The whirring of the TARDIS bellowed in the palace, the sound reflected off the many gems and jewels as the blue box roars into the space. The Doctor steps out to face the rich socialites who deemed it right to take innocent lives. He stands among them, ready as he watches the people in front of him have a complete disregard for those who have been affected by their greed. I thought about what to say, what I could possibly conjure to make you listen and open your eyes. But nothing will do that. You're parasites. You feed off greed and have a total disregard for those you hurt. There is nothing I can say or do that will change that. But I can tell you this. I'm the Doctor. I'm what monsters have nightmares about. And that's what you are. Monsters. You're all just monsters. And I'm the man who stops the monsters. The Doctor returns to the TARDIS. The TARDIS begins to vanish from its existence in that space, revealing that the gates to the palace are now open, allowing whatever remaining expendable slave labour the rich thrived on to storm the palace and take what is now rightfully theirs. After a few moments to himself, the Doctor returned for Daisy. The two of them are now stood by the TARDIS console. Neither of them have spoken a word to each other for hours. The images are just too unbearable for them to comprehend. Even the Doctor is speechless by the sheer lack of humanity he has witnessed. The Doctor places his hand on the flight lever and pulls it down. The TARDIS comes to life in a much sadder manner than normal. Their lives would never be the same.